We're back in the win column and off to a 3-0 start. Duke survives the UConn Huskies, picking up a win, 26-21. We break it down here today on Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Today is Monday, September 16th, 2024, as we start another week here on Locked On Blue Devils. We're excited to talk about the Duke football victory over UConn this past weekend, as here on Locked On Blue Devils, we tell you everything that's going on in the life of Duke athletics. 26-21, the final score for the Blue Devils over UConn, and we'll break down the game with our good pal Jordan Mann, who's from the Big J and Little J show. Always appreciate his insight each and every week. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Your support in that regard means so much to us. If you're watching the show on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and let us know down below. Are you an everydayer? We love all the everydayers out there. Tell us what you think about this Duke football start to the year or any Duke basketball thoughts that you've got ahead of the upcoming season. So without further ado, really excited to welcome him into the program. Here he is, Jordan Mann, back with us once again. And man, the Blue Devils found a way to win. They're now 3-0 on the season.
JJ, it looked like it was going to be a great day. Then it looked like it's going to be a bad day. And then it looked like, whew, all right, you know what? Let's just score 26 points to get out of here. And that's what Duke did. And Duke's now 3-0, scoring 26 points in every single game so far this year.
I didn't even think about that until this very moment. And yet Connor O'Neill made that point to me last week. He made the same point on the Big J and Little J show as he told us on this show while making that point. And holy cow, man.
Yeah.
I literally did not think about that until now. Yeah, 3 straight weeks scoring 26.
I've been talking about it since Duke scored 26 points in the game and missed the 2-point conversion that I just knew we were going to get stuck on 26. And it's fascinating because that's just not a football number. Like if it was 27 3 games in a row, sure, but 26 is just unheard of for 3 games in a row. And shout out to Star Thomas for 2 things. One, becoming a father. Shout out Star Thomas becoming a dad. And also falling down to the 2-yard line where Duke could have surpassed 26 points. And instead, he fell down at the 2-yard line. And, it still the win, but also it would have still the win if he would have scored. But it's okay. Yeah. 26 points. And so I'm just going to give you a preview for Saturday, JJ. I'm just going to go ahead and say Duke might be scoring 26 points again at Middle Tennessee State.
No kidding. Yeah, wow. It's pretty easy to figure out the Duke scoring average through 3 games so far this season, having landed on that exact mark. Yeah, going back to that Friday show with Connor O'Neill, I was pretty confident that Duke would pick up the win. It's rare for me to say such concrete, finite statements like there's no way Duke doesn't win this football game. And yet that's exactly what I did on Friday's show. And I wasn't feeling too great when it's the start of the fourth quarter and UConn has a 21-17 lead. Pretty crazy how we got to that final score, how we got in a position for Duke to be closing out this win. And also even crazier to think about, Duke was losing 21-17 at the start of the fourth quarter after UConn had 21 unanswered because Duke had jumped out to a 17-0 lead. What a crazy game.
Yeah, it looked like Duke was going to cruise, JJ. Like I said, 17-0. Malik Murphy was lighting them up, really just throwing it around anywhere he wanted to. Duke was making big plays. Duke was running the ball. It was like, this is the Duke team that we wanted to see for the first 2 weeks of the season. Has an RPO that's pick 6 the other way, and you're just like, what just happened? But even then, JJ, it was 17-7. Duke was getting the ball back before half. I'm like, just go down and get a field goal or something. It didn't happen. But then we're like, okay, Duke gets ball first to start the second half, go down and get points and just reclaim the momentum. Yeah. Duke goes 3 and out, and UConn scores again, and then you're like, oh, my God, it's 17-14. And you're just like, what just happened in this game?
Crazy that UConn put up the fight that they did, and that you said it when we first started chatting here today, just a sloppy all-around game from the Blue Devils, but yet a win is a win. They score 26 points. They get yet another victory on the season and on to a road game against Middle Tennessee State that they've got this upcoming weekend. So we'll get to the offense and defense specifically in just a little bit here, but another game they're played inside of Wallace Wade Stadium. And the Manny Diaz era starting out undefeated, better than any other option, Jordan. And it has been interesting to kind of see Duke find different ways to win these football games.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm going to be complaining about Duke football performances, I am more than happy to complain about it after wins. So, like, it can be sloppy.
We've seen worse.
Yeah, get me in the mud, win 3-2. I don't care. We're 3-0, baby. That's all that matters. And you see the highlights. Like I said, Duke was cruising 17-0. You're like, this is a good team. Like when Duke's clicking, you're like, okay, this is a fun team to watch. They're flying around. And then when things go bad, JJ, they just go bad. Like it is. When they're good, you're like, okay, this team can, I can see them winning 8-9 games. When they go bad, you're like, okay, after Middle Tennessee State, JJ, I don't know about the rest of the schedule. So hopefully we find a happy medium there. And, I'm still optimistic with my Blue Devils.
A big takeaway in this one, we talked about it all last week, can the Duke Blue Devils find a way to run the football? And they were able to do that against UConn the first time this season. They have a 100-yard rusher for the first time this season. As a team, they were able to run for over 100 yards. We've got plenty of opportunities to talk about the offense as a whole, but Jordan, that's got to be one of the biggest takeaways for you as well, man. I mean, we've got to start there. The fact that finally, Duke could run the football.
Yeah, that was the one thing, JJ, that UConn, when I was watching UConn, scouting them before the game, that they were successful to was running the ball, run defense. I mean, they gave up a 100-yard rusher against Merrimack. I know they won 100-0 basically, but their running back had 14 carries for like 107 yards. And so I knew Duke should have been able to run the ball, so it is encouraging if you see Star Thomas have 122 yards on the ground. Peyton Jones had 40. The number's a little skewed at 142 because Malik Murphy sack and then I think 3 kneel downs, minus 9 yards. So I was proud of Duke. And again, another substitute for the run game was the quick passing game. And Duke, we'll get into that too with Quayshawn Brown having a performance. But him on the perimeter was very exciting to watch, getting 4 or 5 yards a catch on the perimeter as a running back, basically.
Without a doubt. I mean, Duke's ability to just, hand the ball off, the offensive line, open up holes for Star Thomas to execute the way that he did. Again, those numbers, 22 carries, 122 yards, no touchdowns, but that's an average of 5.5 yards per carry. And then those 40 yards rushing for Peyton Jones. Both players had runs of over 20 yards. Peyton Jones had a run for 20. Star Thomas had a run of 22 yards. Why is that important? Well, because in the first 2 weeks of the season, Duke couldn't run it more than 12 yards. There were no big plays out of the rushing attack. And there Duke is with both of their tailbacks getting more than 20 yards in one single run.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said during the game, JJ, when I was in Wallace Wade. I was like, all right, when I saw them break for more than 15 yards, I was just joking saying career longs, but it really was their season longs. So that was good to see, and hopefully you can capitalize on that going into Middle Tennessee State, and maybe the season long be a 30-yard run.
All right, what else do we have to say about the Duke football offense? They win 26-21. They're 3-0 to start the year. We'll have more commentary after this first break here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL is here, college football is here, and it's the best time for us to be talking about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Here's something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, just 1 week left, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All that you need to do this is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sports book. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Welcome back in. Locked On Blue Devils here today. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann of the Big J and Little J Show. He's on X at JMan's Takes. We're talking about Duke running the ball offensively, 122 rushing yards for Star Thomas alone in the contest. Malik Murphy, successful passing the ball once again, 28 of 43 for 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. So unfortunately, he has had 1 interception in every single game this season, but continues to throw the ball down the field well. And then Quayshawn Brown led the way. He had a game-high 11 catches for 87 yards and a score. that was another big takeaway that Josh Cox and I had talked about on last week's show, is that the touchdowns this year felt like all of them were going to Eli Pankow and Jordan Moore, who also found the end zone once again. But nice to see another receiving target, this time in Quayshawn Brown, scoring what ultimately ended up being the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, it was a coming out party for Quayshawn Brown. I mean, you could already tell the staff was high on him by giving him punt return opportunities in the first 2 weeks of the season. And then offensively, his snap count was a little low. I know he had a couple of jet passes, jet sweeps in week 1 and 2, but now you saw him on the perimeter. And one thing this UConn team was also really bad at coming into this game was giving up yards after contact or yards after catch. They gave up 298 of those, JJ, against Maryland. And Maryland, all they did was very similar to Duke, where quick passes make them miss on the perimeter. And you saw that with Duke getting Quayshawn Brown involved. A lot of missed tackles on the perimeter where it looked like it should have been a 1 or 2 yard gain, JJ, and it turns to 5 or 6. And like I said, that's the run game for Duke as well. And then the go-ahead touchdown, back shoulder throw, great ball by Malik, and then a great catch by Quayshawn. And shout out to him. I was happy to see it for him, especially after the Northwestern, fumbled. The punt return could have been down, holding his head. You know what? He comes out and balls the next week and is a very pivotal reason why Duke won this game.
Quayshawn Brown is the redshirt freshman from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, played high school ball at East Forsyth there in the state, played just 27 snaps as a true freshman last season, only appearing in 2 games, so he was able to keep that red shirt. Now he's played way more, and he's had a career game here against UConn. Again, 11 receptions on the day. And I thought it made Malik Murphy's job a little bit easier as well, because we know what to expect from Jordan Moore and Eli Pankow, but it's setting up those easy pass targets and pass plays, and that's what it did for Malik Murphy. What else do you want to say about Murphy's performance at quarterback?
I thought he looked a lot better than the first 2 weeks combined, JJ. I think our boy Connor O'Neill, my co-host of the Big J and Little J show, had an article on Devils Illustrated. You need to look at the pro football grades that Connor tweets out on Devils Illustrated. It's very good intel about what's happening and recapping games. And one in particular is about Malik Murphy, and he forgot the statistic for it, but it was like 4 really good. I forgot the grades, but 4 excellent balls that Malik threw in this game, like NFL caliber throws. The first 2 weeks combined, he threw 4 of those. So the first 2 weeks, he had 4 of those. And then in week 3 alone, he had 4 good balls, NFL type of passes. And the pick 6 or the interception he threw was a great play defensively. There's nothing he could have done. It was one
of the weirdest plays.
Samir Hagan's open on that slant. The defender just made a great play and went the other way. And that's my takeaway too. I thought he protected the ball way better in this game. Ironically, he gave up a pick 6, but the 2 interceptions he threw against Elon and Northwestern were bad balls. This one was just a great play defensively.
I'm trying to remember exactly what the scoring was on that one, Jordan. I think it was scored as a 67-yard interception return that made, or 64, excuse me. And again, if anybody kind of missed the play, you're watching it, you think, did this guy just fumble it? Did Murphy have it slip out of his hands? But no, it looked like an end came around, jumped up, smacked the ball down, and another UConn defensive lineman was kind of in the right place at the right time. It lands in his hands, right? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think it was that, or the same guy that batted it called it. It was just one of those. It happened so fast.
It was so fast.
It was
like, what happened?
Because when Malik threw it, I was already my eyes were following the ball, like where the ball should have went, and Higgins was running free, and all of a sudden I just see a guy running the other way, and I was like, is that a streaker on the field? And then I realized he had the ball. And it was the wildest thing, JJ. But I'm telling you, if that play does not happen, I think we're talking about a Duke blowout win. And that, I know that is just, what if, but the momentum and everything had been 24-0 going into half, and it's just a different ball game we're talking about. But regardless, like I said, 3-0, that's what we take.
UConn had 2 turnovers. Duke just 1. So the Blue Devils did win the turnover battle. It was 409 yards of offense for Duke, 314 yards for UConn. So they were able to outgain the Huskies in what they did there. And talking about the turnover, a defender kind of right there in the face. A lot of people want to talk protection and whatnot, being able to run the football, something that we already talked about. So this offensive line group, Jordan, a lot of talk this offseason because several players graduated, went on to the NFL, transfer. I mean, the whole offensive line room, there's so much turnover across the board. How would you assess their play not only on Saturday, but now that here we are, man, crazy to think a quarter of the way through the season?
I mean, I think they're moving along well, progressively well. Like every game, they've ran the ball better and better. I don't care about the opponents. They're running the ball, and that's all that matters as a confidence booster in that category. And pass blocking hasn't been an issue. JJ giving up 2 sacks in 3 games, and Malik Murphy threw the ball 43 times and give up 1 sack. 43 dropbacks, or I guess 44 dropbacks, you give up 1 sack. Like that's great efficiency on the offensive line. I know Duke throws quick passes sometimes, but we all know who's watching this, and you and I, Duke loves deep balls too. So Malik Murphy needs time to rear up that cannon, and Duke's giving him the time. And so I think Duke's offensive line is improving week to week. You got to not as big of a test at Middle Tennessee State as you would say Northwestern, UConn. But, hey, they click here, go 4-0 going into UNC. Let's get the ball rolling in the ACC, baby.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. We want the undefeated record coming up against the Tar Heels. Got to take care of MTSU first, and also need to kind of break down the defensive performance. We all know Manny Diaz is a defensive guy. What's the big takeaway from Duke's defensive performance against UConn? That's coming up next after our final timeout here today. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy, the brand hardworking people like you and I that have trusted for over 20 years to give us alert, energized feeling needed to get through a busy and hectic day. You always know where to find 5 Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Stock on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com to get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So go ahead and go to 5hourenergy.com today. 5 Hour Energy, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Here we are with Jordan Mann. He's from the Big J and Little J Show. He's on X at JMan's Takes. Tell me a little bit about the Big J and Little J Show.
Yeah, Big J is Connor O'Neill of Devils Illustrated. Little J is myself, just talking Duke football right now. Duke basketball season's coming around the corner. We'll have a preview for that. You can find us on my YouTube channel at JMan_, and also on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And if you are a listener, we appreciate you. Like and subscribe. It helps us a ton. Comment. We love. Look, I ran into a couple fans at the Duke game talking about the Big J and Little J Show. So that was really cool to see, and more of that. I appreciate it. And JJ, shout out to you also for giving me this platform to help grow the show. If it wasn't for you, I don't know where we'd be. So shout out to you, and I love coming on Locked On.
Yeah, we got to keep making this a weekly thing. It's awesome. All right, so people are talking about the show because it's good, and we talk X's and O's, and so got to do a little bit of that with this defensive performance from the Blue Devils. 21 points scored by UConn. You take 7 of those, and that's on that pick 6 from Malik Murphy, so not really fair to kind of put that against the Duke defense. What'd you think? What are the big takeaways from what the defensive side of the ball did?
Well, the run defense scared me. Because the Nick Evers, the QB for UConn, we just could not get him down. I mean, he had 10 carries for 60 yards, but he started the game off with a 23-yard run, and it just seemed like he kept slipping off guys, kind of like how Ryan Leonard used to slip off guys in the backfield for Duke last year. It just seemed like we could not get a good hold of him. And then Cam Edwards ran for 106 against us, their running back, averaged 5 yards a carry. So the run defense scared me. Especially after the Northwestern game, whereas, I mean, Mike Wright is more of a running quarterback to me. He ran SEC. He was an SEC track guy, and we contained him better than UConn's quarterback. So that scared me. But passing defense, I mean, Terry Moore, back-to-back games now with an interception. Josh Pickett, I think he had 3 pass deflections. Chandler Rivers is Chandler Rivers. He gave up 2 catches for like 6 yards. Like, they could not throw the ball against Duke. 15-29 for 135. You'd live with that all day. So, and against Northwestern, go a week prior, JJ, they had to switch quarterbacks going to week 3 because Duke broke Northwestern's offense passing-wise. So, Passing defense looks pretty good. Run defense, we need to see more consistency.
That interception from Terry Moore, I mean, the dude's a ball hawk these past couple of games. And some of the plays he's making, man, I'm like, really? Wow.
Well, when you see like in baseball, they're like the baseball caught you. That's kind of like when the outfield where the Marcell Ozuna's back there and you don't know if he's going to catch a routine fly ball and the ball catches him. That's kind of what happened with Terry Moore on that interception, where he's just headhunting the guy on the sideline, ready to lay him out, puts both hands out to hit him. The ball just falls in his lap. We take it as Duke fans, but when he did that, I was like, that's an anomaly. That would never happen again. But you know what? It's the interception in the stat sheet.
I love it. Yeah, 2 in back-to-back games, like you said there. So for Duke defensively, Jalen Stinson, Cam Bergeron, Alex Howard all led the way with 7 tackles. A much, much larger role for Cam Bergeron and Alex Howard. He wasn't here last year, but those guys have gotten a good bit of run so far this season, and those are good players that Duke's got out there kind of in that linebacker room.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. Those guys, Cam Bergeron's really coming into his own, dude. I love what I see from Cam. Film's popping, and I want to give one guy a shout out that hasn't got a shout out really this season because he's in the trenches. And replacing Big DC at the defensive tackle, Aaron Hall. Aaron Hall is doing a very good job as a defensive tackle for Duke, just wrecking havoc at the line of scrimmage and winning a lot of reps. And he was the guy that I was very impressed with in the line of scrimmage and in the trenches. And if I didn't think we could really replace Dwayne Carter, I'm not saying he's Dwayne Carter, but I'm saying he's being very productive and he's stepping up as a senior leader should.
All right, so Duke now gets set to take on Middle Tennessee State on the road in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The Blue Devils open over at FanDuel as 14-point favorites. And this one, MTSU is 1-2 on the season, and the ESPN Football Power Index gives the Blue Devils an 83.1% chance to win this football game. What are you thinking about this matchup? What are you thinking going into this one?
Look, I mean, this team, MTSU, has not looked good all year, but as I have come to learn this season, JJ, college football is week to week. There's no trend on who's good and who's bad. It is one Saturday you can be good, one Saturday you can be bad. And we've seen that throughout of all college football. If you would have told me week 1 Vanderbilt was going to lose to week 3 Georgia State, I would have said you're out of your mind. That happened. That's just how college football is. So Duke needs to be ready going to MTSU. It's P5 versus G5. I don't care what the record is. You got to go in there. You got to handle business because last time I think Duke was on the road, we got added G5 was UNC Charlotte, and we took an L. Cannot let that happen again.
Yeah, not a fun memory. Although, yes,
at all.
Do not want to relive that football game for sure. But let's not repeat history there in that one. No one saw this Florida State 0-3 start coming either. As Florida State talking about going up against a G5 opponent, lost to Memphis. Mike Norvell, the head coach of Florida State, lost to his former team after having an undefeated regular season in the ACC championship last year for FSU.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe they should leave the ACC, JJ. Maybe they should go to the Sun Belt because what the hell is happening in Tallahassee? I mean, we need to get it to you on Locked On Seminoles or whatever the state is, and we need to talk some things out because they're embarrassing the ACC right now.
Yeah.
But look, that's a good point. Like, I'm going to be curious, like, do they quit the season? Like, do the guys just throw in the towel? I mean, this could get it's already ugly, JJ, but it could get very ugly, and we could be talking about a different conversation. But to talk about the Duke MTSU preview.
Well, hey, pretty close for Duke playing Florida State. Friday night game at home, Duke and Florida State football. When is it ever in Duke's favor or going Duke's way? Is this the year?
I don't want to say either way because knowing that Duke's never beat Florida State and this is the worst Florida State team in a long time, and Duke does not beat this Florida State team, then I'm going to be like, Duke, you know what? It's just not in the cards as a Duke football fan to ever beat Florida State ever. I wish this Florida State team was last year's Florida State team. And then I'm like, okay, we can sleep at night. But, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I gave Duke like a 5% chance of winning that game coming in this season. Now it's like 25%. And I'm trying to be as pessimistic as possible so then, I don't get let down, JJ.
Absolutely. That's a good way to do it. Excited to see this game coming up on Saturday to see if the Blue Devils can go on the road and win against the Blue Raiders. Blue Devils versus Blue Raiders. Fun little twist for you there. What can people expect from the Big J and Little J show, Jordan? Give us one final preview before you head out of here.
Yeah, just going to recap the Duke UConn game, go in depth about what we saw for Duke UConn, have some cool little facts about the game. We'll give our Manny Man of the game. That's our new segment, our player of the game. Shout out 50 Cent. And and then we'll preview MTSU, JJ. And then, hey, after that, it's previewing Duke UNC, and we got to ring that damn bell.
Yeah, we do. Need to have that happen. Thanks for the time, Jordan. We'll see you next week, okay?
See you, buddy.
All right, that's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Great insight from him as always. Duke scores 26 points yet again, and they win. Pretty awesome feeling. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.